This first story is jaw-dropping. While I build my first house, Mika admits she got pregnant by another man only for revenge against her ex-boyfriend that she cheated on. She starts by saying, "I'm a cheater." Whatever, it is what it is. Some people smoke, some people gamble. I cheat. I've been doing it since I was 19, and it's never really been a problem until now, because I've always been smart about it. I know how to keep things separate. I know how to manage my phone. I know how to keep two conversations going without mixing them up. It's practically a skill at this point, and I was good at it until some bitter girl with too much time on her hands decided to blow up my life over a man she couldn't even keep. Mikey was my boyfriend for about 2 years. Good guy. Really good guy, actually. The kind of guy who does stuff for you without making a big deal about it. He'd fill my car up with gas and never mention it. The kind of guy I probably shouldn't have cheated on, but here we are. Rick was a guy from a work happy hour. Tall. Tattoos. This energy where he'd look at you and you'd melt. We started flirting, it became texting. Texting became hanging out. Hanging out became what it always becomes. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. I wasn't planning on leaving Mikey for Rick. I just needed something on the side, because that's how I'm wired, and I've accepted that about myself, even if nobody else wants to. Some people need variety. I'm one of those people. It doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me honest. At least I'm honest about it now, even if I wasn't then. Sorry, but I'm not giving you brownie points for being honest. If you're a compulsive cheater, then don't get in a committed relationship. Mikey never would have found out if Rick's ex wasn't an absolute psychopath. This girl went through Rick's phone somehow, found our texts, figured out who I was, found Mikey on social media, and sent him screenshots. Who does that? Like, worry about your own relationship. She didn't even know me. She blew up my entire life because she was mad at Rick and I was collateral damage. I'm still angry about it, honestly, because I had everything under control. Mikey was happy. I was happy. Rick was happy. Everyone was fine until this girl decided to be a hero for no reason. Mikey called me on a Wednesday and said I know about Rick in this completely flat voice. I started crying. Not because I felt guilty really, but because I knew it was over and I wasn't ready for it to be over. I liked my life the way it was. I liked having Mikey to come home to and Rick for when I needed excitement. It was working and now it wasn't, and I was upset about that, about losing the setup. He was weirdly calm about the breakup. And look, I know I'm the one who cheated, so I'm not supposed to be upset about how he handled it. I get that, but his calmness made me feel like I never mattered. Like I was so replaceable that finding out I was with someone else was just a minor scheduling conflict for him. I wanted him to care. I wanted some kind of fire. Even anger would have been something. Instead I got this quiet, polite nothing, and it made me feel like I'd been in a relationship by myself for 2 years. She likes the reaction of getting caught almost as much as the cheating itself. This is sick and twisted. I called him a bunch of times after, texted constantly. He'd respond sometimes, but it was always this calm, polite stuff like, "I hope you're doing well and take care." Like I'm his dental hygienist, like I'm someone he met once at a wedding. I couldn't stand it, so I started actually dating Rick. Not because I had deep feelings for Rick, but because he was around and he wanted me, and after weeks of Mikey acting like I was a stranger, I needed someone to actually show some interest. Rick had a nice truck. He called me baby. He bought me stuff without me asking. It was easy and I needed easy. And then I went to Mikey's brewery with Rick on a Saturday. Mikey works front of house there. I walked in with Rick right next to me looking good, and I wanted Mikey to see it. I wanted him to feel something. Jealousy, anger, anything. He looked at me, looked at Rick. Rick's got like 4 inches and 30 pounds on Mikey, and I wanted him to notice that too. And this man just turned around and walked out through the back door. Didn't say a word, didn't flinch, nothing. Rick was standing there asking about the beer menu, and I was staring at a closed door wanting to throw something. Whatever. Fine. He wants to play it cool. I can play too. Mikey always talked about wanting kids, like all the time. When we have kids this and when we have kids that. He wanted to coach Little League. He wanted to be a dad. He was serious about it, and it was one of the things that made him different from other guys I'd been with. Most guys my age dodged the kid conversation. Mikey ran toward it. So here's my thinking. I'm 31. My mom's been on me about it since I turned 30. All my friends are either pregnant or posting about freezing their eggs or doing gender reveals every other weekend. I've wanted a kid for a while, and the timing made sense regardless of everything else going on. That's the truth. I was going to want a baby at 31, whether Mikey existed or not. But I also knew that if I got pregnant, it would finally get to him. Because this man wanted to be a dad more than anything, and knowing I was having a baby with Rick while he's single and pouring beers would eat him alive. There is no way he could stay calm about that. No way. I know him. He can fake it through a breakup, but a baby, that's different. That would crack him. If my ex got pregnant with a new guy after a couple months, everyone would tell me that I dodged a massive bullet. 3 months in, and Rick still introduced me to people as, "This is Jess, not my girlfriend, just Jess," never talked about the future. He was basically a guy who liked sleeping with me and hanging out, but had zero plans to go further, so I figured a baby solves that too. He'd have to commit. He'd have to let me move in for real. He'd have to actually be with me instead of whatever this half thing was. Worst case, I get a baby I wanted anyway, and a co-parent who at least sticks around out of obligation. I didn't see a problem with that plan at the time. She's an absolute genius. This is a foolproof plan, and nothing can go wrong. I stopped taking my pill, flushed them, didn't tell Rick, it's my body, and I wanted a baby. It took almost 2 months, which was annoying because I really thought it'd be faster, but eventually I got the positive test, and that was that. 2 months, and she never thought that maybe this isn't a great idea. I told Rick at his apartment, walked in, said I'm pregnant, I'm keeping it, and I want us to do this together. He stood up and went to the kitchen sink and literally threw up. Like hands on the counter, head down, full on threw up. Then he sat on the floor and stared at me for like 2 minutes straight without saying anything. I kept talking because the silence was unbearable, saying it'd be fine, we'd figure it out, it's a good thing. He wasn't hearing any of it. He called the next day and said he needed a week. He took it, came back and said he'd be there for the kid. Not for me, for the kid. Cool. He started picking up extra shifts. He let me move in because it made sense logistically. He goes to all the appointments and sits there staring at the ultrasound like it's a foreign film with no subtitles. He bought a crib off Facebook Marketplace. He watches YouTube videos about car seats. He's doing the dad stuff, but with this energy like he's serving a sentence he didn't get a trial for. Which is dramatic in my opinion because lots of guys would love to have a baby with me. She does sound like a real catch. Now the brewery, 4 months pregnant, full bump. I went back. I told myself I was just in the area getting food, which was a lie because the brewery is 20 minutes from my apartment and there's literally a Panera across the street from me. I wanted Mikey to see me. I wanted him to see the belly and understand what he could have had if he'd fought for me instead of walking away over something that honestly wasn't that serious. I walked past him, slowed down, made sure he got a good look. He looked at my face, then he looked down at the bump, and this man laughed. Not a big laugh. This little exhale through his nose with a smirk, like I'd just told him a joke, like my pregnancy was funny to him. I snapped my head toward him so fast I got dizzy, and he caught my eyes for a second, and then walked out back through that same stupid door. He laughed at me. I'm carrying a whole human being, and he thought it was funny. I've been going over it in my head every single night since, lying next to Rick who's snoring, and I'm staring at the ceiling, thinking about Mikey's dumb little smirk. He's hiding it. He has to be hiding it. Nobody sees their ex pregnant and just laughs. He wanted kids with me. We talked about names. We talked about what school district we'd want. He's gutted. I know he is. He's just too proud to let me see it. He has to be dying inside, and that laugh was him covering it up. That's what I choose to believe, because the other option doesn't make sense to me. I've thought about not keeping it. I'll be honest about that. Not because I don't want a baby, because I do. I've wanted one for years. But sometimes late at night when Rick's asleep and I'm doom scrolling, I wonder if I keep it. But then I feel it kick, and I think, no, this is mine. This is real. This is separate from all of that. This baby is the first thing in my life that isn't about a man. My mom is excited. She bought a onesie already. She thinks Rick and I planned this. She thinks we're in love. I let her think that because the truth would require a longer conversation than I'm willing to have with her right now. She'll figure it out eventually, or she won't. Either way, there's a grandkid coming, and that's all she really cares about. I'm keeping it. The appointments are fine. Everything is healthy. Rick goes to all of them. We're doing this. It's just not how I pictured it. Whatever. I'm going to be a great mom. I know that about myself. This kid is going to have everything. This kid is going to have all kinds of mental illnesses with a parent like her. If baby number 2 comes along, then Rick should probably get a paternity test knowing her track record. The comments are lighting her up, and Megan said, it wasn't really his business whether you were on birth control. That is actually deranged. You deliberately got pregnant without his consent, and you typed that out like it was a reasonable thing to say. I can't believe a person like Rachel actually exists. This is the most white trash story I've read on here. Meanwhile, Brooke is going through a divorce because she stopped giving her husband head. My husband was literally standing there in our kitchen telling me he's done, like actually done, and I'm holding a plate of chicken nuggets I just made for our kids, and this man is telling me he wants a divorce because I won't go down on him. That's where we are. Not the house, not the kids, not everything I've built for this family. He's burning it all down over no oral. He's been asking for years, and I've been saying no for just as long, and he knew that. He knew where I stood. I didn't hide it. I'm 36 years old. I have 2 kids. I'm not 22 anymore sneaking around in some guy's apartment, doing whatever to keep him interested. That's young behavior. That's what you do when you're dating and insecure and trying to prove something. I grew out of it. People grow out of things. I grew out of shots of tequila and staying up until 3 a.m. too, and nobody's divorcing me over that. I would probably divorce over the same thing. I'm not going the rest of my life without it unless there's a good reason. Yeah, I did it with other guys before him. When I was younger, I was a different person. I did a lot of things I wouldn't do now. I was wild with my college boyfriend. I was wild with the guy after him. I'm not proud of it, and I'm not ashamed of it. It just was what it was. When I met Ryan, I was 25, and I was tired of that version of myself. He was stable, he was kind, he had a job and a plan, and he treated me like a person and not just a body. I didn't want to be the girl who did all that stuff anymore. I wanted to be the woman who got married and had kids and built something real. Ryan felt like the right person to do that with. So yeah, I toned it down. I chose to be different with him. That's called growth. She settled for a guy she thought was beneath her, so didn't have to do these things anymore to keep him interested. It's not like I went from zero to nothing overnight. Early on I did it sometimes. Not often, but enough that he didn't complain. After we got married it slowed down. After the first kid it basically stopped. I was exhausted. I was breastfeeding. I was touched out by the end of every day, and the absolute last thing I wanted was someone else's body in my face. He said he understood. After the second kid, it was completely off the table, and I made that pretty clear without spelling it out. He'd still ask though. God, he'd ask. He'd try to be smooth about it. He'd try to set the mood. He'd rub my shoulders and kiss my neck, and I always knew where it was heading, and I'd shut it down before it got there. I'd say I'm tired. I'd say the kids just went to sleep, and they might wake up. I'd say I have a headache. I'd say I just ate. I'd say literally anything to redirect, and he'd back off every single time because he's not the type to push. But I could see it on his face. The stupid sad look, like I'd just taken something from him. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's annoying to feel like your husband is always keeping score of something you've already told him isn't happening. Even on the rare occasion I considered it, I couldn't get past the hygiene thing. I'd make him shower first, like fully shower, soap everywhere, and then he'd come out and look at me all hopeful, and I'd still feel gross about it and say not tonight. After a while, the shower thing became its own problem because he'd say, I just showered like you asked, and I'd have to come up with another reason, and we'd both know what was happening. It got awkward, it got tense, but I figured he'd eventually just accept it and stop asking. Making him shower, and then not going through with it, is evil work. That would break a man. He didn't stop asking. He'd bring it up every few weeks, sometimes directly, sometimes through hints. He tried buying me a book about intimacy once, and I left it on the nightstand untouched for 3 months until he quietly moved it. He suggested we see a therapist, and I said absolutely not, because I'm not sitting in a room with a stranger talking about what I do and don't do with my mouth. He tried to have a serious conversation about it one night after the kids were in bed, and I changed the subject because I just didn't want to have it. I thought if I kept brushing it off, he'd get the message without me having to be blunt about it. I was trying to let him down gently, gradually, like training him to stop expecting it without crushing him. That was the plan anyway. Didn't work. About a month ago, he sat me down and asked me point blank, "Are you ever going to do that again?" Not angry, not aggressive, just flat, tired, like he already knew the answer but needed to hear it. I tried to dodge it. I said, "Can we not do this right now?" He said, "No, I need an answer." I said, "Why does it matter so much?" He said, "Because I need to know if this is my life now." So I told him the truth. I said, "No, I'm not going to do it again." I said, "It's not something I enjoy. It's not something I want to do. And I need you to accept that and stop asking." I thought he'd be sad about it, maybe quiet for a few days. I thought he'd eventually process it and move on and we'd go back to normal. Instead, he looked at me and said, "I don't want to spend the rest of my life begging someone to want me." And then he said he wanted a divorce. Setting this boundary earlier on would be the right thing to do. Even bringing it up at some point in the marriage, expecting the problem would just go away, is not the right way to solve it. I lost it. I called him childish. I said, "Are you serious right now?" I said, "You're going to blow up our family, our home, our children's lives because your wife won't give you oral." I said, "Do you hear how pathetic that sounds?" I said, "You're a grown man with 2 kids and a mortgage, and you're going to throw it all away because I won't do one thing in the bedroom." I said, "No judge is going to hear that and think you're reasonable. Depends if the judge is female or male, I think." I said, "Our kids are going to grow up in a broken home because daddy didn't get enough head, and you're okay with that." He just waited until I was done and said, "I've already called a lawyer," and walked out of the kitchen. That was 3 weeks ago. He's sleeping in the guest room. We're coexisting in this house like strangers. The kids don't know yet. He's acting normal around them, which honestly makes me angry because it means he's capable of pretending everything is fine while simultaneously planning to destroy our family behind closed doors. He eats dinner with us, he does bath time, he reads them stories, and then he goes to the guest room and closes the door. He's trying to make me feel guilty for maturing, for not being the same girl I was at 22. Sorry I grew up. Sorry the mother of your children doesn't act like a college girlfriend. Sorry I have boundaries now. The kids are going to be devastated. He knows that. I've told him that every single day for 3 weeks, and he just nods and says, I know, and doesn't change his mind. He's willing to put our 6-year-old and our 4-year-old through a divorce because his wife won't perform oral. I'm supposed to be the unreasonable one. I keep thinking he's bluffing. You don't walk away from all of that because of this. He's going to wake up one day and realize how insane this is and come back to our bedroom and say he's sorry and I'll forgive him because that's what I do. I always forgive him. But he's cleared half his clothes out of our closet already. He moved his desk into the guest room. He's not bluffing. He's just quietly dismantling our marriage one drawer at a time. Whatever. If he wants to explain to his kids why daddy left, he can. I'm not doing it for him. It's a symbol of what's happening in the rest of the marriage. I would bet there's plenty of other things she stopped doing that would make him feel loved as well. The comments are saying their husbands would divorce them as well if they tried the same thing. Jessica also pointed out she only stopped because her husband was stable and she probably felt she had him by the hook the entire time. But that post was nothing compared to Tom, who caught his own sister cheating on the day of her wedding. He starts by saying, my family is split down the middle and I've been called everything from a hero to a homewrecker by people who share my last name, and I honestly don't know who's right anymore. My head is fried. I haven't slept properly in 2 weeks. My sister Courtney was supposed to get married 2 Saturdays ago. Big wedding, like 180 guests, open bar, live band, the whole thing. My parents had been helping pay for it for over a year. Her fiancé David is a good dude. I mean, genuinely one of the best guys I've ever known. I've been close with him since they started dating 4 years ago. He's the kind of guy who just fits into your family without trying. My dad loves him. My mom loves him. I love him. He asked me to be one of his groomsmen, which meant a lot because he has 3 brothers of his own, and he still made room for me. The night before the wedding, all the groomsmen stayed at David's place. His brothers, his best friend from college, me. You could tell this man had zero doubts. He was ready to marry my sister, and it was all over his face. Courtney was at her house. They'd agreed to spend the night apart because Courtney was big on the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. Around 7:30 in the morning, David was getting his suit together and realized he'd left his cufflinks at the house. He asked me to run over and grab them because obviously he couldn't go himself without breaking the rule. I said, yeah, no problem. I got there around 8. I walked in and I could hear movement upstairs, and I just figured she was up getting ready or whatever. I went up and I just stood there. I didn't say anything. My brain couldn't put it together fast enough. Courtney looked at me and her face went white, like completely drained. A guy sat up and looked at me and then looked at her, and you could tell he was trying to figure out who I was and how bad this was about to get. He figured it out pretty fast. Nobody said anything for what felt like a full minute. Then Courtney said my name really quietly, like she was trying to keep me calm, even though I wasn't being loud. I was just frozen. The guy started heading for the front door. Didn't say a word to me. Didn't look at me. Just gone. I looked at Courtney and said, what the hell was that? She started immediately going into damage control mode. She said he was just a friend who came over last night because she was nervous about the wedding and couldn't sleep. With how shocked they both looked, it was painfully not true. I said, Courtney, come on, don't do this. She kept going with it for another minute or two, saying it wasn't what it looked like, and I just stood there, waiting for her to stop, because we both knew what I'd just walked into. Eventually she dropped it. Then she started crying, and I mean really crying. She sat on the edge of the bed and put her face in her hands and started saying, please don't tell David. Please, you can't. Please. She said this was the last time. She said she told the guy it was over after today, that once she was married, she wasn't going to see him again. She said it like that was supposed to make it better. Like the fact that she'd scheduled her last hookup for the night before her wedding was somehow responsible. One last cheating scandal before the wedding must be another one of her traditions. And I'm standing there and my brain finally catches up to something I think I've always known but never wanted to look at directly. Because this isn't the first time with Courtney. She cheated on her boyfriend in college. I knew about that. She cheated on the guy she dated after college. I knew about that too. I said, Courtney, this isn't the first time you've done this. She didn't deny it. She just cried harder and said, please, this is my wedding day. Please don't ruin this. Please, I love David. It was a mistake. It's over. She kept saying it's over like the repetition would make me believe it. Then she flipped. When she realized the crying wasn't going to convince me, she got angry. She said I was about to ruin her wedding day. She said, do you know how many people are coming? She said Mum and Dad spend tens of thousands of dollars. She said everyone's already getting ready. The flowers are at the venue. The cake is there. Do you understand what you're about to do? And that's when something clicked in my head. Because she said, you're about to ruin this. You're going to destroy this family. Like I was the one who'd just been in bed with someone else 3 hours before walking down the aisle. Like I was the problem here, and not what I'd just seen. She was looking at me like I was the one holding the grenade when she'd been carrying it around for years, and I just happened to be in the room when the pin came out. Cheating a few hours before the ceremony is crazy work. What's the point in getting married if you're going to be doing that? She should have just called it off herself. I told her I had to tell David. I said it's not fair on him. He's at his apartment right now ironing his shirt and practicing his vows, and he has no idea. I can't stand next to him at that altar knowing what I know. I can't watch him cry when he sees you walk down the aisle knowing what happened in this room 8 hours before. I can't do it. She begged me for about 20 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. 20 minutes of crying, bargaining, guilt tripping. She said I was choosing David over my own sister. She said blood is thicker than water. I kept saying I can't do that, and she kept going. She brought up stuff from when we were kids, like I owed her something. She said, remember when I covered for you, when you snuck out in high school? She said, I've always had your back. She said this is the one time she's asking me to have hers. I left. She was still crying on the bed. I drove back to David's apartment, and I felt like I was going to throw up the entire way. I sat in the parking lot for maybe 5 minutes trying to figure out how to say it. There's no good way to say it. I went inside. David was in the kitchen with his best man eating breakfast, and he looked at me and immediately knew something was wrong because apparently my face was grey. His best man left the room without being asked. I sat down across from David and told him everything. What I saw. Who was there? What Courtney said. All of it. He just looked at me. Then he put his hands on the counter and kind of leaned on them like he needed something to hold him up. He asked me if I was sure. I said yes. He asked me if maybe I misunderstood what I saw. I said David, she admitted it. Then he went to the bathroom and I could hear him in there for a while. I don't know if he was crying or throwing up or just standing there. His best man looked at me from the hallway and I just shook my head. He called Courtney and I could hear her screaming through the phone from across the room. He hung up after about 30 seconds. Then he started making calls. His parents, the venue, the coordinator, one by one. I'm shocked the sister didn't try to call him and reach out first before the brother got to him. But how do you even save it at that point? The next few hours were the worst of my life. The calls started going out to guests. My phone was blowing up. My parents called me and my mum was hysterical. Not at Courtney, at me. She said I should have waited until after the wedding. She said I should have kept it to myself. She said this wasn't my business. Courtney sent me a text that afternoon that said, I will never forgive you for this. That's the last thing she said to me. 2 weeks and nothing. I know I made the right decision. Just some of my family members are making me doubt my choices. The fact that the mom is taking Courtney's side makes me think she's cheated on the dad before. Cheaters will never blame themselves. She's probably twisting the story and telling people that her brother made her do it, framing it like he was pushing the man inside of her. Ryan said, your dad should get a paternity test. He's probably right. Meanwhile, Sammy is actively trying to save the marriage she destroyed by asking for an open relationship. 3 days ago, I had a husband and a home and a life, and now I'm looking at divorce papers on my kitchen table, and he won't even look at me when he comes to pick up his clothes. He's ruined our 7 years of marriage, and he can't even look at me. For the last year and a half, things have been dead in the bedroom. Completely dead. I'm talking maybe once every 2 or 3 months, and even then it felt like he was just going through the motions. I tried everything. I bought new lingerie. I tried initiating at different times. I suggested we go away for a weekend. Nothing worked. He was always tired or stressed, or not in the mood, and after a while I just stopped trying, because the rejection was killing me. Maybe I did leave it a bit late. I should have been trying to do this stuff earlier, but getting rejected, it does something to you. It makes you feel like you're invisible in your own house. There was probably a deeper issue that hadn't been resolved, and I didn't just sit there and suffer quietly. I brought it up multiple times. I said I'm unhappy. I said we need to fix this. I said I feel disconnected from you, and every time he'd say, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, work has been crazy, I'll try harder, and then nothing would change. Nothing. He'd try for maybe a week, and then it was right back to him falling asleep on the couch, watching TV, while I'm upstairs waiting. I gave him chance after chance after chance to step up, and he didn't. I need people to understand that. So I suggested an open marriage, and before everyone loses their minds in the comments, I want to be very clear about how I did it. I didn't just blurt it out. I sat him down on a Sunday afternoon when we were both calm. I said I love you. I said I'm committed to this marriage. I said I don't want to leave you, but I also said I have needs that aren't being met. I said I think we should consider opening things up so that I can get what I need physically while we work on the emotional side together. I said it could actually take the pressure off both of us. I was thoughtful about it. I was measured. I even said it didn't have to be permanent just until we got back on track. Nothing fixes a broken marriage better than opening it up to other people. With strategy like that, she should be the defense minister. He stared at me for a long time, like an uncomfortable amount of time, and then he said, "So you want to sleep with other people?" And I said, "It's not that simple. It's about intimacy and connection and feeling wanted." And he said, "But the solution you're proposing is sleeping with other people." And I said, "Yes, that's part of it, but it's more nuanced than that." He stood up and left the room, just got up and walked to the garage, and I heard him in there for about an hour. I gave him space, because I'm not a monster. I know it was a lot to hear. I thought he was processing. I thought he'd come back and we'd talk it through, and maybe he'd have questions or boundaries he wanted to set, and we'd figure it out like adults. He came back inside and said he wanted a divorce. I suggest we work on our marriage, and his response is to end it entirely. No discussion, no questions. No, let me think about it for a few days. Just, I want a divorce. Like he'd been waiting for a reason, and I'd just handed him one. That's exactly what happened. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. I panicked. Obviously, I started backtracking immediately. I said, forget I said it. I said we can do therapy instead. I said I don't actually want an open marriage. I was just desperate, and it was a bad idea, and can we please just pretend I never brought it up? I was crying and telling him I loved him, and that I didn't want to lose our marriage over a conversation. Just a conversation. I didn't do anything. I just floated an idea because I was desperate and lonely, and at the end of my rope. He said his mind was made up. Just like that. 7 years of marriage, and he made a decision about our entire future in 1 hour in the garage. He didn't even give me a chance to take it back. He didn't even give it a night. He just decided, and that was it. He's been staying with his brother since Monday. He came by yesterday to get some of his things, and I tried to talk to him, and he just kept packing like I wasn't there. I said, please, can we just go to therapy? Just try. Just give me that much. He said, there's nothing to talk about. I said, you're throwing away 7 years, and he said, I'm not the one who threw it away. Which is insane, because I literally threw nothing away. I made a suggestion that plenty of couples make, a suggestion that I've read about in multiple articles and forums where couples have used it to actually strengthen their relationships. I did research. This wasn't some impulsive thing. My friend Danielle thinks he already wanted out and was just looking for an excuse. Honestly, that makes more sense than anything else, because what kind of person hears their wife say she's struggling and responds by filing for divorce? I came to him with a problem, and instead of helping me solve it, he quit. That's what he did. He quit, and now I'm supposed to just accept that. I'm supposed to sit in this house that we bought together and look at his empty side of the closet and just be okay with it. I'm supposed to explain to my parents and his parents and our friends that my marriage ended because I had the audacity to be honest about what I needed. Because that's what happened. I was honest, I was vulnerable. I told him the truth about how I was feeling, and he punished me for it. The therapy thing is what really gets me. I've been suggesting therapy for months. Long before the open marriage conversation. I said multiple times that we should see someone together, and he always had a reason not to. Too busy, too expensive. We can figure it out ourselves. He wasn't willing to do the work when I was begging him to, and now suddenly I'm the bad guy because I found another potential solution. He closed every other door and then got mad when I tried to open a window. That's what happened. That's the truth of it. Therapy definitely could have saved the marriage. An open relationship definitely wouldn't have. If he wasn't willing to work on the marriage, then sounds like she should just let it end. My sister thinks I should have just cheated on him quietly like a normal person, and I know she was half joking, but honestly, at least then I'd still have a husband that's paying the mortgage. I did the right thing by bringing it to him openly and honestly, and this is what I get. This is what honesty gets you. A husband who packs a bag in 20 minutes and doesn't look back. I've been calling him every day, sometimes twice. He picks up about half the time, and it's always the same. I keep saying we can fix this, and he keeps saying there's nothing to fix. I told him I'd sign up for therapy on my own if he won't go with me, and he said that's a good idea, but it didn't sound like he meant it as a path back to us. It sounded like he was suggesting I get help for myself, like I'm the one with the problem. He's already talked to a lawyer. It's been 3 days, and he's already talked to a lawyer, who hears their wife say she's unhappy and has a lawyer on the phone before the week is out. Unless he was already planning this, unless he already had 1 foot out, and I just gave him the push. And if that's the case, then he's been lying to me for months about wanting to make it work, when really he was just waiting for a reason to leave. And somehow I'm the bad guy. Everyone keeps telling me that asking for an open marriage is basically the same as saying, you want to cheat and I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. Cheating is lying. I didn't lie. I told the truth. I came to my partner with an honest conversation about my needs, and he decided that my honesty was a deal breaker. He would rather lose me entirely than work on this together in any capacity. He would rather blow up a 7-year marriage than sit in a therapist's office for 1 hour. His brother's wife texted me yesterday and said, you need to let him go. I haven't responded because I genuinely don't know what to say to that. Like, it's easy. Like, I didn't build a life with this man. Like, I'm supposed to just release 7 years into the wind because he made a snap decision in his garage on a Sunday afternoon. I love him. I still love him. I never stopped loving him. That's the part nobody seems to understand. I didn't ask for an open marriage because I don't love my husband. I asked because I do love him, and I was trying to find a way to stay. I was trying to keep us together, and he turned it into the reason we're apart. It sounds like she's very heavily in the denial stage of a breakup. From the outside looking in, this marriage needs to end before they have any children. He's not willing to work on it. She's going to start looking at cheating. Lauren points out the line Rebecca said, "My sister thinks I should have just cheated on him quietly like a normal person. That is a wild thing to think is completely normal." Emily, on the other hand, admits to doing some very illegal things because she's paranoid her boyfriend is going to cheat. "I'm going to tell you exactly how I got my perfect, handsome man because I'm tired of watching girls sit around waiting to be chosen. I chose him, I decided, and now I'm 11 months in and we're looking at rings. This isn't luck. This is strategy. I saw him at a rooftop bar in July. He was with 2 friends drinking something dark, and I noticed his warm energy and all his friends gravitating towards him. Clean shoes, nice watch, but not flashy. He tipped the bartender well, and I clocked that immediately because cheap men are a waste of time, and I've already done that once. He looked like he had his life together and wasn't performing it for anyone, and that's what got me. Not the face, not the body, although both were fine. It was the way he carried himself, like he didn't need anyone's approval. He had a couple girls approach him, and he rejected them kindly, and that's what did it for me. I spent the first hour just watching, where he stood, who he talked to, what made him laugh. He wasn't on his phone, he wasn't scanning the room for girls. He was just present with his friends having a good time. I learned more about him in that hour than most girls learn in 3 dates, because most girls don't pay attention and just want to talk. I just imagine her sitting in the corner staring at him and freaking him out slowly. I positioned myself near his group and made a comment about the view. Not to him, to his friend. That's important. You never go directly for the guy you want. You enter the circle from the side. His friend was easy to talk to, and within 5 minutes he was introducing me. I was warm but not eager, smiled but didn't linger, asked him one question about himself, listened to the full answer, then turned back to the friend, made him come to me for the second conversation. He did. Every man does if you do the first part right. She thought more about this than I have for anything in my entire life. By the end of the night we'd swapped Instagrams, not numbers. Instagram first because I needed him to see my life before I gave him access to it. My grid was already curated, not thirst traps, just a woman who travels, has friends, eats well, looks good without trying too hard. I wanted him to scroll through it later that night and think she's interesting, not she's hot. Interesting lasts longer. I waited 2 days to watch his stories. Didn't like anything, didn't comment. On day 3, I replied to a story he posted about a restaurant with a casual recommendation. He responded. We talked for an hour. I ended the conversation first. Always end it first. Within 2 weeks I had his number. Within 3, I'd suggested a coffee near his office because I told him I had a meeting in the area. I didn't have a meeting in the area. I looked up where he worked from a LinkedIn post his friend had tagged him in and picked a cafe 2 blocks away. He thought it was a coincidence. It wasn't. After the first real date, I left my sunglasses on his kitchen counter. Not by accident. I have 4 pairs of sunglasses and that one cost $12. I texted the next morning like, "Oh no, I think I left my sunglasses at yours," and he said I could come grab them whenever. So I came by that Thursday after work. Brought him a coffee and a pastry from the place he'd mentioned on our first date. He said, "You remembered my order," and I could tell that hit him somewhere. I remember everything. His apartment is when things shifted for me. 1 bedroom, but it was nice, like adult nice. A leather couch that I later found out cost $4,000. Built-in bookshelves. A kitchen with actual cookware, not just a dusty pan and a spatula. His closet was organized. His bathroom was clean without me being there. That told me he wasn't a project. He was already finished. I just needed to make myself permanent. The sunglasses became a charger. The charger became a toothbrush. The toothbrush became a just-in-case outfit in his closet. Then it was skincare on his bathroom shelf. Then a blanket because his apartment ran cold. Every item was a small claim. I never asked, "Can I leave this here?" I just left it, and he never said anything because each thing on his own was too small to question. By month 3, I had a drawer. I didn't ask for the drawer. I just started putting things in one, and he adjusted around it. That's how you move in without moving in. You don't ask for space. You fill it slowly until removing you would be more work than keeping you. I have a friend who broke up with a girl he was dating because she was doing the exact same thing, except she would store her skincare in the fridge and leave it there. I met his mom at month 2. Most girls wait to be introduced. I made it happen. He mentioned his mum was in town for the weekend, and I said I'd love to meet her if the timing worked out, super casually, like it was no big deal either way. He brought it up to her, and she said yes, because mums always say yes when their son has a new girl because they're curious. I wore a modest dress, brought flowers, asked her about herself, complimented her son in a way that was specific, not generic. I didn't say, he's so great. I said, he's one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met. He remembers small things about people, and that's rare. His mum's face changed when I said that. I had her from that moment. Now I text his mum directly. We have our own relationship. I send her recipes. She sends me photos of James as a kid. She told me last month that I'm the best thing that's happened to him. That's not an accident. That's an investment. Because when you have the mum, you have a vote in every major decision he'll ever make about you. He's not just breaking up with a girlfriend at that point. He's explaining to his mother why he let go of the girl who brought her flowers and remembered her birthday. You have to give credit to her. She's clinical. I'm a good cook. My mum taught me, and I practiced specifically for this reason, because I knew that feeding a man consistently is the fastest way to become essential. I started with 1 or 2 nights a week, something simple. Then it became most nights. He'd come home, and the apartment smelled like garlic and whatever I'd made, and he'd just sink into it. He stopped ordering takeout. He stopped going out for dinner with friends as much, because why would he when there's a home-cooked meal waiting? I'm not just feeding him. I'm replacing every alternative, every restaurant, every DoorDash, every reason to be anywhere else at 7 p.m. that isn't with me. The chores followed naturally. I started doing his laundry because I was already doing mine. Wiped down the kitchen because I made the mess cooking. Organised his hall closet one Saturday because I was bored. Each thing on its own is a small favour. Together it's a web. He now lives in a space that runs on me. His shirts are folded the way I fold them. His fridge is stocked with what I buy. His apartment smells like my candles. If I disappeared tomorrow, his entire daily routine would collapse, and he knows it, even if he hasn't said it. I need this woman to find me next. The camera I'm not proud of, but I'm not sorry about either. My last boyfriend cheated on me for 4 months, and I found out from a screenshot someone sent me. That's never happening again. I bought a small camera that looks like a phone charger and plugged it in by the front door. It connects to my phone. I can see everyone who comes in and out. He doesn't know about it. I check it maybe once or twice a day, not because I think he's doing anything, but because I need to know. Trust is a choice, and I choose to verify. Some of you are going to call this crazy. I call it not being blindsided again. The girl who got cheated on is not the girl who saw it coming and chose to stay. She's the girl who didn't have the information. I have the information now. There we go. The crazy to match the insane personality that she has. The female friends were the longest project. He had 3 close ones. I didn't come in hot and say, I don't want you talking to them, because that never works and it makes you look insecure. I played it slow. I slowly convinced him to cut all of them off and made him think it was his doing. I also made sure his boys love me. I remember their girlfriends' names. I ask about their jobs. When they come over, I make food and then disappear so they can have guide time. I'm not the girlfriend who sits there and monitors. I'm the girlfriend who drops off beers and wings and leaves. They tell him constantly that he's lucky. That matters, because men listen to their friends more than they'll ever admit. And if his friends think I'm perfect, then the thought of leaving me gets harder every day. His schedule is basically built around me now, without him realizing it. Monday through Thursday I cook and we stay in. Fridays we go out together. Saturdays he has time with his friends, but he usually comes home by 9, because we normally have errands to do on Sunday morning. He thinks this is just what our life looks like. He doesn't see that I built it. Every single brick. I know his passwords, not because he gave them to me, but because I watched him type them. I know his email. I know his iCloud. I've never gone through his phone because I don't need to. The camera covers the apartment, and the passwords are there if I ever feel something shift. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. There's a difference. The ring conversation started 2 months ago. I didn't bring it up. His mum did, because I'd planted that seed back in month 4 when I told her casually that I wasn't in a rush, but that I knew James was the one. She stored that. Mums always store that. She brought up engagement to him at Thanksgiving, and he told me about it that night with this look, like the idea had just occurred to him. It hadn't just occurred to him. It occurred to me in July at a rooftop bar, and everything since then has been the execution. We're going to look at rings next month. He thinks it's his idea. He thinks all of this was organic. The meeting, the dating, the moving in, the life we've built. He thinks he found a great girl at a bar and got lucky. He didn't get lucky. He got chosen. And I made sure every single day since then that choosing me felt like the easiest, most natural decision he'd ever make. The amount of craziness and dedication she's showing either means he's set for life, or this is all going to blow up in his face if he disappoints her a single time. Some of you are going to say this is manipulation. I say it's effort. I say it's knowing what you want and being smart enough to get it. I say it's making sure you're never the girl crying, wondering what went wrong. I'll update you all after the proposal. The comments are split on calling her a genius and defending her craziness, or talking about how they could never invest this much effort into a man. Thanks for watching the entire episode. I thought I'd jump on the camera and thank you guys personally for all the comments. I hope you guys see the visual of my house. Otherwise, there's 2 videos on screen that YouTube are recommending for you to watch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode.